babe.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at another Priestess View. I'm Goddess Rhonda, and of course, we have with us our beautiful Goddess Star.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us again tonight. Welcome.
And today we're going to be having our tea and tiara conversation show. So hopefully you put your bling on. You can notice Goddess Star's beautiful tiara. I'm wearing a tiga from Hinduism and East Indian
Isn't
jewelry.
it beautiful on her? She looks so beautiful with that on. I
Oh,
thought,
thank
wow.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And as always, before we begin, we like to cast a circle of protection around us. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Goddess?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just lighting
Oh, there you are.
my air. All hail, our lords and ladies of the East, our brothers and sisters, our brother and patron, the sacred element of air, namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee, my lords and ladies. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you. So it is, so mote it be.
All right. And my fire keeps going out from my fan, but we'll give it go. All hail, our lords and ladies of the South, my brothers and sisters. My sister and patron, the element of fire, my brother and patron. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I charge you, please cause a barrier of protection to all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So mote it be.
So it is, so mote it be. Oops. All hail, our lords and ladies of the West, our brothers and sisters. Our sister and patron, the sacred element of water, namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you. So it is, so mote it be.
So mote it be. All hail, our Lord and Lady, brother and sisters, my sister and patron, the sacred element of earth. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I charge you, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So mote it
So it is, so mote it
be.
be. And we now bring down the divine white light from the sacred source of all well-being and fill all of our spaces with peace and protection always. So it is, so mote it be.
So mote it be.
Spilled a little water, but that's okay. So now we are going to be discussing a bunch of different topics today. So I'm hoping that you've got your tea or whatever it is you want to drink, and you put some bling on to chill out with us bling goddesses. Tonight, as we just discuss, different things, we're just going to kick back and talk about something. So the first thing that we have, and please, by all means, please join us in the chat room, which is located right to the right of this broadcast. So if you look to the right, you'll see a little chat room. You'll see that people have put Merry Meet into the chat room. So please join us there.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So now going back to our topic. So our first topic is, do you really get back what you put out there? Now that's something that I think we've all heard at some point in our lives. You get back what you put out there. If you do good, you get good, and whatever you if you do bad, you get bad, but you get back what you put out there. And I have to say,
Right.
I have found that phrase to be extremely puzzling for a very long time, because I know so many people, so many witches, and even non-witches, that are nice, they care for their families, they do everything that they can to help other people along, and yet their lives, they're either suffering from financial problems or health problems. I mean, like serious issues going on that they, in my estimation, do not deserve by any means, because they have been so much of service for so long. So I,
Right.
you know, when it's got started to get on my opinion, on my nerves, when I would hear people voice that opinion. Oh, well, you know, if you, whatever you put out there, you get it back. You know, if you do good, then you'll get it back 3 times more. And I have found that to be a load of crap. I'm not going to lie. It's a load of crap. So I have my theory about that, but I'm first going to before I start getting into my theories, because you know how I am with my theories, I will let Goddess Star tell me what she thinks about that phrase. And have you found it to be true that the law of 3, whatever you put out there, you get back 3 times?
You know, I'm kind of a bit of that. Some of it I find to be, and some of it I see as work for some people. And again, I have a theory about some of that. And also, I do believe that sometimes whatever you put out is not exactly what comes back to you in the exact same way, which is what I think. That's exactly, I think that's the way it comes back at all.
Mm-hmm. All
I
right.
think if, I think in a sense, do the best you can. Maybe what you're presuming is really good for the person that you're giving, one that's coming away feeling, and you don't want it to be, you walk off feeling like if they have we are the best that we can and do. Part of my theory is that whether or not you do it in sense you're not expecting it, not in this. To me, there are so many theories to that I've actually, I don't know, as I just saw the question, I'm like, thought about, you know, but in some ways, I think you're right. I think a lot of it is not necessarily, you know, I mean, bull crap. Hard to say, because some things do, things don't, just don't, no matter what you do. And you will just keep trying and persevering, and things work out the best that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to accept that for what it is. You've done different things that you need to get back to you or something like that. And I believe that's, or like you would say, spiritual contracts or different things. I think that's part of our atonement for different things. In this is how it comes back to you within this life. Maybe in this lifetime you're supposed to learn a particular lesson before it can come back to you a certain way. So I don't know. Give it a twirl, Goddess Rhonda. Let me hear some of your theories.
Okay. So my first theory is this. If there's one thing that I've noticed, is that the people who do seem to constantly get what I call spiritual rewards are those people who are focused on their own things. They focus on their own business. They focus on their own prosperity. I'm not saying that they're selfish. They might be, you know, they might gift some of that away. But for the most part, their energy is centered on what they can do for themselves. So they are literally investing in themselves. And it's the same way if you invest in stocks in Coca-Cola or the Ford company. You invest X amount of money with the expectation that you're going to get something back in return. So if you put in $10,000 into the Ford Motor Company stock, then you expect when that stock goes up, which is your intention that that happens, otherwise you would not invest in it, then you know that you will get a certain amount of dividends that will more than make up for whatever it is that you've invested, and you begin to profit. But I have found that most witches out there, and the ones that I'm talking about specifically who are struggling with things, did I not put my thing on mute? I'm sorry. Let me just make sure that my other one's on mute because it might not be. Oh, it is. Okay, I'm good. Just making sure because I heard some feedback. So anyway, what I have noticed is that the witches that I know that tend to suffer are the ones that are focusing on everybody else's stuff. So technically, we're getting back, and I say we because I'm one of those people that I'm constantly putting out there for everybody, and then come the end of the month, I have to hustle to get my own stuff together. But I had an epiphany about that, and I realized that it's really, you get back what you invest in yourself. Because with me investing my energy into other people's happiness, because that makes me feel good. I love to see people happy. I love to help people improve their lives. So universally, that can be translated as that is my reward, is watching other people do better, because that's what my focus is on. So technically, I did get back what I put out there because my intention was to help somebody else. And so somebody else got that help. So if you look at it slant-wise, I still then now have to say, well, maybe it's not so bogus, but I now have to take the responsibility. Where am I investing my energy that I should get the dividends that I want? Am I investing it in my own business? Am I investing it in my own life, trying to better my life? Or am I handing out all of my good karma, making withdrawals from my good karma and handing them over to somebody else without putting deposits back? So I believe that you do get what you put out there, but you have to pay attention to who and what you're investing in. Because if you're, it's like anything else. If you keep making deposits into your own bank account, your bank account will grow. But if you're making deposits into other people's bank accounts, their bank account's going to grow and you're going to end up bankrupt. So that's one of my theories. That's just one of my theories. We'll get to the other ones later. What do you think about that, Goddess Star?
I think you're actually right. I think because, like you said, like I was saying also before, when we do whatever it is, or anyone else that's doing whatever it is that they're doing, some people do it with the intention, like, if I do this, I'm going to get back so and so and so. So already, I think you cannot do it. You have to do it selflessly. And like you said, you are doing it with the mindset of, I want to make this person happy. I want to please them. And if you're doing it with that mindset, in a way, maybe technically you're right. Maybe we are already seeing the reward for that, and that makes us feel accomplished, or it makes us feel very good about ourselves. Yes, as we would say. Else, I don't know. It's air to me because, yes, I believe that a lot of times putting myself into that equation there, I always get back things that I put out. Exact things, it may not be the way I guess people think it is, but I don't know if we necessarily get the exact things that we are hoping to get, and a lot of times that means it falls short. You know, fine. It's getting back what you wanted from it. But I like you say, with like what Goddess Rhonda said, think from it in the sense of like, I have helped someone, I have pleased someone, is that's our general reward, and that's I think I'm following through with that. If you have any other theories and different conspiracy theories or anything, but I think, you know, I don't know if anyone else has anything else in the chat to that, or if you also got it.
If anyone has something in the chat room they'd like to say, please do. If you want to add to this, if you would like to tell us your experiences of getting back what you put out there, or not getting back what you put out there, what your feelings are, we would love to hear what you have to say about that. And again, I take responsibility because I do get genuine pleasure on helping people to improve their lives. And so that could very well translate to the universe, that is my reward, that I get to see them, those clients that I'm working with, doing so much better, which I am glad. That always gratifies me. But I realize that I do need to invest in myself. And another thing I think that hurts people, us spiritual people in particular, is the saying that you should give and expect nothing back. Well, if that is your attitude, that you're going to give and expect nothing back, then don't be surprised if you get nothing back, because that's your intention. I'm just going to go ahead and give, and I don't expect anything back. Well, if that's what you're putting out there and you get nothing back, then that's the reason why, because you set that intention. Now, I know that there are some people that, you know, they can do things, selfless things, and they seem to be doing, you know, doing very well for themselves. But I guarantee you that these same people are putting deposits into their own spiritual bank account, into their own good karma account, and using that to get what they want. Now, of course, I've always had what I needed. You know, I don't have to go without food or shelter or things like that, but there are other things that I want to achieve. And I have had to, just this week, this realization, this epiphany dawned on me, that I have to also set my intention that for every good deed that I do, I'm going to use that karma so that good will come back to me. I've been putting that at the end of everything. Even when I spend money and I say, I hope this money blesses whoever it comes in contact with, and then comes back and blesses me 10 times more. So I have been putting more deposits into my own spiritual bank account, as we'll call it. And I've already started to see returns. So if you're having a problem where you're just putting out there and putting out there, and your life is in a shambles, or you can't figure out what's going on, then it's time to also do some self-examination to see what are you actually getting from this. Now, one of the things I learned in my hypnotherapy classes is about something called secondary gain, where it can seem like you're not getting back, but you might be getting back something else that you want. So let's just say, for example, that you're constantly helping other people, and then you need help to pay your rent at the end of the month. And all of your friends are saying, oh, poor you. You just help everybody so much. You do so much for so many people. You deserve so much better. You're such a good person. Well, if you feed, and we're all energetic vampires. Don't think that you're not a vampire because you are. We all feed on energy. We get it from food. We get it from what people, the happy emotions they give us. Some of us get it from sad emotions that we get. But if your secondary gain is that you love people saying, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so sweet, you're so kind, what would I do without you? That could be what you're getting back, because that's your secondary gain. And you might be looking for validation, or you might be looking for pity. You might just be looking for someone to tell you you're a hell of a person and you deserve the best in life. You might need that. So that could be what your reward is by having all of these people tell you how great and wonderful and fantastic that you are, and you feel really puffed up and good about it. But unfortunately, at the end of the month, when it's time to write out the check for the rent and your bank account's falling short, suddenly that secondary gain isn't helping us too much. So it's really important to take a look at what your reward is. What reward are you really looking for that subconsciously you're looking for, not consciously. Consciously, you might be saying, well, for all the good that I do, I want to win the lottery, or I want to buy a new house, or I need a new car, or whatever it is. But subconsciously, you could have something else going on where just being of service is its own reward. So it's really important, because I had to examine myself very closely about all of these things and, you know, face truths and come to realizations. And so you can do the same thing. And now is the perfect time to do it, now that we're in the Mercury retrograde foreshadow, because that is when we need to go inward and fix things inward and things that need to be resolved. So if you're walking around saying, you know, and telling people to give and expect nothing back, then don't be surprised if you get nothing back. I think it's really important. Same way when you cast a spell and you have to be really specific about your intentions, life is no different. You have to put those intentions out there about what it is that you expect to get back. What do you think, Goddess Star?
I think you're absolutely right. I think, and I didn't even realize it, but I think you're absolutely right. Whether it's at the full moon or the new moon or whenever it is, do something for yourself. Do a ritual that's just for you, for what your needs and wants are. Because a lot of times, whether you realize it or not, because we're so busy always doing things for other people, you kind of neglect yourself. And I think that checks and balances that you mentioned, Goddess Rhonda, about doing some deposits as well for yourself. Maybe that's the way you do it for yourself. You do a ritual all about the affirmations yourself, loving yourself, giving yourself, patting yourself on the back, you know, because you deserve to give yourself some atonement, to give yourself some encouragement, that boost of, you know, yes, you did something, and not just depend on you, because a lot of times people are busy, you know, wanting and needing you to give it to them, that they don't necessarily have time to give it to you. So you have to start to take care of yourself. And no matter what you say, if you can sit back and say, like Goddess Rhonda and myself, that every time you've needed something, whether it's in the last minute or whatever it is, to go on that trip or to go whatever, you were able to go and you were able to somehow do it when you know you didn't know how you were going to get it, then you have gotten rewarded. Mm-hmm. You have gotten the things that you wanted. It may not be or anything like that, but you're not just surviving, just living day to day. You can actually go on that trip, or you can actually have more food in your home, or whatever it is. So all of that are different types of rewards and accomplishments, and we have to see things, you know, in a sense of what I've had to tell people a lot of times. If you speak to people a lot, listen to how they speak. Times they speak as the glass is only half full. Not even full. The glass is always, this is this and that is that, negative thoughts and negative words, and they're not seeing that, but look at this. You were able to go on this trip, or you were able to do this, and you didn't have it last month. You know, they're not seeing that glass half full thing, and they really need to see that and appreciate it for what it is, because there are so many times, even going to Hexfest or different things that I wanted to do, and I'm like, okay, you know, or I've heard you say, I know it's exactly what happened. We go. So we do in life without having to say, you know, I'm not going to get it, or any negative thoughts about it, other than we're going to get it. And we go back to helping people And if it in turn it makes you feel good inside, I know that when I go to bed at night, when I end of my day, I kind of look back and I'm smiling when I go to bed, because as tired as I am, I'm still smiling because look what I've done for the day. Look what I've accomplished for the day. Look who I've helped for the day. Whether in person or on Facebook or wherever, if you could say a kind word to someone and that word helps them, make them feel better, then you have accomplished something. And it may not be in a big sense that it comes back to you, but you would not even realize that what you consider small is a really big thing to a lot of people. And is a big thing to you as well. You just have to see it for what it is in the bigger scheme of things. So you have to really sit back and say, I have done this and I have accomplished this, and pat yourself on the back. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, Goddess Rhonda, I did wonderful today, and different things like that. And it's good to say it and mean it and be happy about it. And look what we've done today. So kind of look at everything more with the glass half full, and you would see a lot more things being accomplished, or you would see a lot more things coming to you a certain way. I sat back and I watched today before coming on to the show, and there were a couple of people on Facebook, and they're like, this is a rant, and they ranted off. But a lot of it was not just a ranting. It was so negative. It was so darkly negative that I was just like, wow, you know you know this person is coming from such a dark space that I would never have guessed it, because they show you such a different front. You know what I mean? But it's just like, wow, I don't think I've been able to see myself so darkly, in that sense. That is kind of sad to see. And I didn't even, what, you ever see someone say, spew, or I say, not just say, but spew so many negative things that you don't even know what to say to them. You just kind of walk away. And
Right.
essentially that's what I did. I did the Facebook walk away. I was like, okay, I can't even respond to this. I don't even know how to begin to respond to this.
Right.
It's so negative. And I walk
Right.
away, and I'm sure you guys see that a lot on Facebook, especially with people, because there are so many so-called Facebook friends, and then you look at them and they're like, some of the things that they say, you're like, wow. And then you begin to realize how much more you have and you work and you do and you see for yourself, so that you are going to start to see the glass half full a lot more with yourself and with your lives, and just take it for what it is. Being rewarded day by being able to breathe free for a while, instead of pain constantly. So to me, I see so many things that it's okay that I'm being rewarded all the time. Okay. So, Goddess Rhonda, what about you?
I think you're right. I think self-care is very important. I think, you know what, I'm just going to check again to make sure I'm muted, because I keep hearing a conversation and I don't want to cause any feedback. Okay, I am muted. Goddess Star, is your other screen muted?
Yeah, it says it has an X. Yes.
Huh. Okay. All right. Well, I guess it is what it is. So anyway, I do think that self-care is really, 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 really important, because you have to ask yourself, how much of your good karma are you giving away? I mean, I think it's great. As Goddess Star said, sometimes I'll want to go somewhere. I have no idea where I'm going to get the money from to do it, or whatever, and the money will show up or a way will appear and things like that. And I think that's awesome, and I'm really glad for that. However, I would like to get to the point where I didn't have to wonder where the money was coming from. I shouldn't have to wonder where it's coming from. And that is because the reason that I do have to wonder is because I realize how much of my good karma that I give away. How many times I've gotten money and someone needed money and I handed it over to them without a thought to myself. I do that all the time. And so it's really important to take care of your own needs first, to tend to your own wings. Because if you're in a public witch, or you're in the service business, or you're helping people, and you're trying to help other people fly, and your wing is broken, it's not going to go very well. So it's important that you tend to your own wings. And you can be an angel for everybody and be an angel for yourself, and stop giving all of your good karma away. Let people build up their own good karma and use their own. There's nothing wrong with that. Because I'll tell you, when you're hustling around and you're worried about making your expenses, or someone's sick, or whatever's going on in your family, you're not going to be as effective as a person of service as you would be if you are strong and feeling vital, your finances are good, your health is good. Then you can do a whole heck of a lot for a lot of people. But if you're struggling and trying to hurry up, and you never have enough time, or you never have enough money, how many people can you really help? So it's very important, and it is okay to tend to your own wings. I am grateful that all of my needs are always met, but I want more. And if I want more, then I have to start making deposits into my own karmic and spiritual bank accounts, so that when I need to withdraw some of it, it's there, instead of me looking at, an empty space because I gave it away. That's really important. Don't give so much of yourself away, and tend to your own wings. Okay, I think we spent enough on that, because we still have other topics to go.
Yes.
So now let's talk about black or white. Does magic really have a color? Now, this is an issue that is very dear to Goddess Star and I, because people are like, well, black magic is evil and white magic is good. And I'm still not quite clear who made that up with colors in magic that way. Do we use colors to do spells? Sure. We use different colored candles and things like that. But I don't ascribe meaning, like what's good and what's bad to color. When you think of black, the color black, typically it's like, oh, that must be evil, or they're doing something mean, or hexing and cursing people. Well, let's consider the color black for just a moment. Many great things are conceived in blackness. A child is conceived in the blackness of the womb. There's no light in the womb. It's completely black in there. But life springs from that blackness. When we plant a seed into the earth and we cover it up, there's no light in there. But that seed grows into a tree from starting off in darkness. Ideas, then great things are conceived and done in darkness. They do come out into the light eventually for nurture. Birthing a child, the child comes out of the womb and into the light. A tree or a plant will burst forth from the ground, coming out of the dark and into the light. But by no means can you say that black is a bad color for magic, when much of our manifestation that we do starts off in the dark of the moon, just before it gets to be new, and we birth our new intentions. So if anything, we can look at darkness as the vessel of great beginnings, of great things going on. Now, when people are doing mean and evil things to other people, where are they getting the blackness in that from? I've never understood, like, where's the blackness coming from? And when I burn a black candle, I burn the black candle to protect me and to absorb any negativity or toxic energies around me, to get rid of it and to destroy it. So I can't imagine why people think that the color black equals evil, particularly with spirituality or magic, and why the color white would only represent good things. I'm not clear on that, and maybe you got a star, you have some explanation or a theory behind that, or maybe you in the chat room might have some theories behind that. But I just can't seem to figure out why, when we talk about black magic or the dark arts, why is that always looked at as something evil or bad, when so many good things come from the dark? from blackness. Gold comes from the center of the earth, which is dark and black, as does silver, as is the food that we eat, all of the minerals. Everything that we ask for comes from the darkness, comes from the blackness within the earth and within the divine feminine, the womb, so to speak. So I'm trying to figure out, where did this whole black magic equals evil magic, where did that come from? Do you have any theories about that, Goddess Star, or something you want to add to that?
You know, I was supposed to, because I mentioned that to you, and I was supposed to go looking and seeing when did it begin or whatever it is, you know, and I never did have a chance to look it up. But you mentioned so many amazing things that are from the black, as you say, and that it even came because I watched a video on YouTube, and it was a wonderful video. It had such amazing music in the background, and the words were beautiful. And then they got to the last part, and it says, "So, as a witch, only practice the white magic and not the black magic." And you know, they kept on going on about the black and the white, and I'm just sitting there going, "This is now offending me, and it has turned me off entirely." And looking at this video, and I don't understand. Like you said, we burn black candles because black candles are one of the strongest candles of all the colors, or when you're doing color magic, period. It's one of the strongest colors to work with because it represents all of the colors. It can be used as the strongest color for protection. When people talk about protection, that's the first color they reach for.
Right.
So obviously it has something strong enough to keep. So, you know, I mean, the fact that it turned me off to such a degree from that beautiful video when they started right away with, "So don't practice black magic, practice only white magic," brought it back to, and maybe I'm wrong, but it brings it back to racism again. Everything white and the purity and all the different things, and black is the negative magic, which we know it's not true. It absorbs negativity. It protects highly. It's very, very protective. So people reach for those candles when they need the big guns brought out, you know, or that color when they need the big colors, big guns brought out. So why is it considered something negative or bad? And I was looking back at, I got to at least one part of it. And at one point in history, they used to call it the dark arts, not black arts or black magic, but the
Right.
dark arts.
Right.
It was light and dark, color and white or any of those things. It was just light and dark as to how human beings see the type of magic that they want to work, because magic is just, magic has no color. It's just energies and how that human being uses that energy. So if magic has no color, why we as human beings give it a color, I have no friggin' idea. You know, so here we are with these things. Even there is a Facebook meme or meme or however you guys call it that goes around with a black wolf and a white wolf, about what the Cheyenne said back in whatever time about the two wolves in each of us and all of that. And I'm like, at no time did they say a color. In all the research I've done, there were no color given. It was simple. They said there were two wolves in each person. One is full of love and one is full of hate. At no time did they say color.
Right.
And then they said, well, which one wins? And they said the one that you feed the most. Nothing more. There were no colors involved. I have no idea why colors were given to it. And now there's a black wolf and a white wolf, and everybody's saying there's a black wolf and a white wolf inside of you, and each one of them is fed love and hate. And I'm just like, ay, ay, ay. Everything always has to seem to come down to a color. And yes, it does come off as racism, even among witches. So it does come off as something that they're saying. Now, I understand there are people that would say things like, oh, there is I practice gray magic. Or, I practice dark magic and light magic. That's understandable, because if you want to give it color, gray, all they mean with gray is like, I'm in the middle ground. I'm between the light and the dark. That's all they mean. So when someone says to me that they practice gray magic, I understand where they're coming from in the sense, and I'm not taking it as racism, because they're seeing it as a bit of light and a bit of dark. Because what a lot of people would say, and you can take it however way you want it, but I'll tell you something: the way human beings are made up, we are made up of both light and dark. So if you deny one half of you, and you only keep, like they say, feeding that wolf, one wolf or the other one gets what you call suffocated and not really, is it? Because you only accepting only one side of it because the other side is where it is. But we all have a shadow self. We all have, all of it is part of who you are. And you have to learn to accept all aspects of it. Because we all have dark thoughts, we all have thoughts of sometimes, I wish I could do so and so. Like when I see things on television or on the internet about that pedophile did this, or that rapist did that, or that murderer did that. Yes, if you want to call it dark thoughts, I'm like, kill the, I'm like, put them out of their misery, and that's one less parasite to feed off of good people or innocent kids. Yeah, we all go there at some point, and we will do so to protect our young, or to protect our friends, or to protect our family. It doesn't mean that we're dark or black arts or whatever it is. It just means that we are accepting all the aspects of who we are. If I have to protect myself, this is the reason I went to learn how to shoot guns, or the reason I went to learn how to do Muay Thai, kickboxing, and all the different things. What, I'm supposed to be a passive person and let them do whatever they want? No, I'm going to fight back. It's what we learn in protection magic, or in protecting ourselves, period, in our physical sense. So, I have such an aversion to seeing that, when I see all the memes or memes that goes around about black magic and white magic. And I'm like, they really need to stop. They seriously need to stop with all of it, because it does come off as part of racism. I'm sorry, but it does, because they always have to make everything that's black look like there's something wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with it. We have to learn, like Goddess Rhonda said, when you plant something, it's in the dark. When the babies are in the stomach, it's in the dark. That's what they know first. That's why do you think we go to sleep when it's dark? Because that's the time our minds quiet down, and that's the time when we need to go under and go to sleep. It's very hard for people to sleep during the daytime unless they work at nights and they are so exhausted they finally fall asleep. But it's very hard for people to sleep at nights and be very restive. They're more restful when they do it in the dark. It's just the way human beings are. Anyways, I'm ranting. Go ahead, guys.
No, 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 no. I'm glad
Because
that
I was so upset. That video, I passed it to you, and and
yeah,
I was like, oh, look how beautiful this is. And then I'm like, and the dribble that went with it, I was like, now I hate the video. It just turned me so off. I was just like, ah.
yeah, I didn't even make it through 2 minutes of that video. I made it like through 2 minutes, and I got disgusted, and I turned it off. But I saw your point. But while you were just, on your rant, as you call it, that gave me some time to look on the internet just to see what I could find about the origins of black magic. But before I even get into that, I see that we're getting a lot of comments in the chat room. So I'm gonna stop for just 1 second, then I'll get back to that, so that we can acknowledge everyone in here. And thank you everyone so much in the chat room. As always, we're so glad to see you, and we're so happy to hear your feedback and what you have to say. So we've got from J. Key, we've got another analogy example would be going to college, go enough times, and take enough classes. Eventually you'll get a degree. And Tamu, please forgive me if I'm saying your name incorrectly. Namu and Jaina, only if matriculating, you can go to college and take a lot of classes and not end up with a degree. It depends on your intention, which J.K. also acknowledged, says yes, she was just giving an example of that. And then also we've got Ginger, who says, I used to have trouble receiving gifts, cash, even asking for what I need. And a Lakota shaman told me, try only breathing out, not in, because that's what you're doing. That's an excellent analogy. Just breathe out, but don't breathe in. You're going to die if you do that. So that was great. And the shaman who told that to Ginger, that instantly changed her thoughts. And I think that's awesome. I will be remembering that because that's really, really good. And then we also had Jay Key, who says there's a good old Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk is separated in halves and it didn't work out very well. Kind of illustrates the point. So I wanted to acknowledge and thank you so much. And please keep the feedback coming and the comments coming because we love to hear what you have to say. So anyway, with that said, going back to what I could dig up on the internet about it, pretty much the main theme seems to be that magic used to be, all magic used to be called the dark arts because it came about, when people are going through dark times, that's typically when they'll start to turn to casting a spell or doing some sort of intention manifestation work. You know, if things are going great, people don't think about it, but when times are tough, people are desperate, they need to do something. And apparently, back in the olden days, when things were very bad, back in the medieval times and things, they were dark times back then, people turned to witchcraft. And it was called, all witchcraft was called the dark arts and was considered.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And when you, you know, if as Christians back then, if it was considered a sin, then you were branded a heretic or you were persecuted, you know, drowned or hung or burned or whatever. And so, because dark times seems to create what they call dark energies or the need to say, you know what, I can't just sit here and pray for something to happen. I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to light a candle, or I'm going to have to light some incense or make some incense or make a potion. I'm going to have to do something. I need to take it into my own hands now, pull myself up by the bootstraps and do something because I'm desperate. Times are tough, times are dark. And that's where the origination of black magic and dark magic came from. It actually meant all magic is what it seems to have come from. Now, there's also something about the Quran also makes a mention of two angels, but I don't think it really has much to do with, you know, that's something that's part of their spirituality. I don't really think it has anything to do with us in general. But it does make sense to me that at a time that all magic was considered dark or evil, as, you know, decided by the Christians or, you know, the faiths at the time, that's where it comes from, is from dark times when people were having a hard time and they turned to magic instead of waiting for prayer. Now, I've always said this as well when, I don't know how many of you, I'm sure a lot of you, much like myself, started off Christian. I was brought up in a Christian household. And one of the stories, you know, the Bible tells, that's been particularly around Easter, I think they mainly do, and I'm sort of out of touch with that now, when they start to tell the story of Moses. And Moses went up into the mountains. And then when he came down, he saw all of the people, you know, that were standing there waiting for him. They had created this golden calf and were worshiping the golden calf. And so he was yelling at them, calling them idolaters and things like that. And I remember thinking to myself, well, dang, you know, first of all, these were freed slaves. Where'd they come up with the gold to melt down to make this calf? Where'd this calf come from? Which made me question the story because I can't help myself being a conspiracy theorist. But more importantly, I realized years later, it doesn't really matter where they got the calf from. Obviously, they got it from somewhere. What they were really doing was saying, you know what, Moses, you're taking a hell of a lot of time here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to worship this fertility goddess, because Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, is often seen as a calf, as is Hathor from Egyptian spirituality. The calf represents prosperity, it represents food, it represents nurture. And so what they were really doing was casting a spell, because he was up there in the mountains doing his thing. They're down there starving half to death. They're like, you know what, hopefully Moses is up in the mountain, he's doing okay, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the bull by the horns, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to worship a fertility goddess. And so they created an example of that to worship. I believe that that's what they were doing. And you all know what happened when Moses came down and saw them, worshiping and asking this cow for help. He about had a heart attack and pitched a fit about it. So I can see where, now looking at that, where through history, or the early history of magic, reflected all magic as being dark or black, because it was doing any kind of magic, whether it was to heal yourself or prosperity, even for good things, it was considered evil. It was considered a dark thing to do. So at least now we know that all magic technically originated or was called dark magic or black magic, despite whatever it was you were using that magic for. It was considered, all magic was considered bad. But again, that also brings back into the race issue of saying, well, if it's bad, it's black. And so I do have a problem with people saying black magic, because black is not a bad color. And yes, Isis is the sacred cow, and as Isis is known as Hathor as the cow. Her name is Hathor. But thank you so much, beautiful Jackson, for letting us know that. So at least we know where the term originated from. It wasn't based on doing evil things. It was based on doing magic in general. And it was from dark times, because times were dark. Things were bad. And so people turned away from just prayer, and they started to go back to the old ways that their grandmothers did, and started manifesting through witchcraft. So I think that's an important distinction to make, and to understand where that came from, because now we have to figure out where did we start to make the differentiation of white magic and black magic. Now, where the white magic come in is my next thing that I'm going to investigate, while Goddess Star picks up the conversation from here.
Yeah, that's the reason why I right away, when I got so turned off by the video, because right away I started seeing it as the way they were referring to it, as if it was, again, racism between blacks and whites. Is the same as that Meme with the black wolf and the white wolf. So to me, just human beings coming forward and is bad and what they think is good. And we all know that there's good and bad in every race and in every color and in everything. So then that would mean, honestly speaking, if you want to think of it like that, and people really want to get into color magic, you can take just about any color and do good and bad with it. It just depends on what you decide to do with it. So again, it's not a matter of race or color per se, but a matter of what is it that the person themselves, what are they practicing? Where are they putting their magic? And if everything was considered dark arts because they were all magic, then we all practice the dark arts, And if we all practice the dark arts, this whole color thing that they have going on, I'm like, can we just not do that anymore? Because it bugs the hell out of me. And I'm being nice with my words.
Well, no, you're absolutely right.
It bugs the hell out of me whenever I see it.
It is important, I think, for us to examine this, so that at least, when you're using a phrase, you know where it comes from. You know what the origin of and what it really means. So now you know that the term black magic does not really mean, it was not the intention of that definition to say that, part magic is evil and part magic is good. All of it was considered evil during Christian times. And that's where that comes from. And it was because people were going through a dark time. So they turned to other means to help them, as opposed to just, sitting around and praying and basically hoping for the best.
Yeah, but you would think that in this day and time, with all of the knowledge on the internet and Google and everything, that people would educate themselves rather than just spew things that they have no clue about. But they do it all the time. They make fun of people who, they call the fluffy bodies. People didn't give a shit back in the dark age. Fluffy body than what they thought that they should be doing. So if that's the case, then really educate yourself. Stop talking, just spewing just to say that you're spewing stuff. Educate yourself and decide what you're doing. Decide your magic. Don't preach to us. You're preaching just like a Christian. And a lot of people, I think a lot of witches, I hate to say it, but this is how they preach it between black and white magic. If that's how I would see it. At least that's how I'm seeing it, because they're so busy stuck between, where they came from. And again, I hate to say this is another thing that I don't know about you, Goddess Rhonda, but I still see this where there are a lot of witches that are still stuck in that Christian mentality phase.
Yes.
They don't even realize that they're still stuck there because they're still battling that good and evil as they see it within themselves. And I'm sorry, it's been almost 40 years now. I'm sorry, I'm gone. I'm no longer in that Christian mentality phase. And if they don't learn to get over it and move on from there, this is the phase that they're going to stay stuck in. You know, we're not Christians. We're not in the Bible with good and bad in that sense. It's a matter of how you practice your magic for the good of all, harming none, period. It has nothing to do with anything else. You
No,
know?
it
Go ahead,
absolutely
girl.
does not. Okay, so I'll tell you what I've done.
Otherwise, I'm going to keep ranting. I'm so upset by it.
No, you know what? I don't believe you. Now, what I've managed to find out was white magic was considered, what happened was they started the priests back then felt that by invoking spirits, didn't matter if they were malevolent or malicious or not, because you weren't talking to God or Christ, that was considered evil because you were asking other spirits to help you. However, it became a more acceptable if you did what they called natural magic, which they started calling white magic, because they felt that if you were summoning spirits, you were summoning dark forces. Didn't matter if you were summoning a goddess or a demon. They didn't make the distinction. You were summoning a dark force. Someone who was not Christ or not God was considered a dark force. Hence, you were doing dark magic because you were invoking spirits. Whereas natural magic, just using, earth and the elements and things like that, was considered natural magic, which is all natural magic, but whatever. It was considered natural magic, and that was more acceptable. So they started calling it white magic because you did not require having to invoke any spirits. You didn't have to call upon any gods or goddesses or spirits. You were just, whatever, maybe picking up a crystal or, charming an herb or something like that. That was considered much more acceptable than actually dealing with gods and goddesses that the priest did not agree with. They wanted you to just worship their God, their Christ, or if you're of the Old Testament, whoever, represents that. So that's where the breakdown came in the late 15th century.
Yeah,
Is
right.
when
I just wanted to
people,
kind of I just wanted to kind of say what Beautiful Jackson said. She said Isis is the sacred cow also, because I think you mentioned Isis before. And Jay Key said some people are more comfortable in their own biases over educating themselves, unfortunately. She's run into it over, I've run into it over my spiritual path before. It's kind of, we do run into that every now and then where people are stuck in that Christian mentality phase without realizing it.
right,
So
well,
they
and
keep
that's why it's
battling.
really important for people, you know, for you to really know what you're talking about and to really stop and do the research to see what is going on here and where the delineation of the magic as far as colors came from. And here we find that in the late 15th century, it was considered that if you did not invoke a spirit or a god or a goddess or even a demon, whatever it is you're invoking, then that was considered natural magic because you were just using your herbs or your stones or whatever it was, and that was considered okay. But if you were invoking gods and goddesses and or spirits or whatever it is, that was considered, if you were asking for help from someone other than the god that they were perpetuating, that was considered bad or the dark magic. So that's at least where the delineation came from. So it wasn't technically, the intention was not to make it, you know, the intention was not racist. The intention was actually religious from the priests back then who said, you know, you're not allowed to call upon goddess Isis or, you know, goddess Lakshmi or god Lug. That's not right. You're calling dark forces to help you. You should be calling on whoever it is was at the time there. But it's not so bad if you don't call on, you know, call on anybody else, but you're just using your crystals or your stones or whatever it is, then that was considered better. It wasn't really considered acceptable, but it wasn't considered as sacrilegious as calling upon another spirit or another god or another goddess, excuse me, to help you with whatever it is you were trying to do, because that was considered a betrayal of, you know, if you were a Christian or if you were Jewish and you're following the Old Testament God, it was considered a betrayal. So that's where the delineation came from. So now you know that technically magic really doesn't have a color. It just is what it is. If you want to think of it, if you have to define it, then think of it as offensive magic and defensive magic. When I say offensive, I don't mean cursing and hexing. It means aggressive. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go on the offensive instead of waiting until the end of the month when all my bills are due and now I've got to, you know, hustle up a spell to get that paid. I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to go on the offensive, and I'm going to start now to work my magic so that I have whatever money I need by September 1st. I'm going to do offensive magic. I'm going to go forward and move forward with something that I need to do. And you can also think of it as defensive magic, where if someone is coming at you and you have to defend yourself, you know, if you have to put words to it or define it, then look at it from those kinds of words. Either you're going to be offensive, where you're going to be proactive and go on the offensive so that you can get whatever it is that you need by the end of the year, by the end of the month, or whatever it is. You're not waiting until the end of the month. You're going to take care of it now. You're going to go forth and put those intentions out there now. Or if you need to defend yourself, you can think of it in those terms, or if you want to think of it as far as doing something that is adverse to you, like just hexing a person for no reason, you know, as opposed to defending yourself. You can put words on it, but don't put colors into it, because colors have really nothing to do with it, except if you're using a specific color for your intention. So if you want to do green magic because you need money or something like that, or you want to do red magic because you need energy or defense, or however red translates to you, then, you know, you can look at it that way. But don't just say, you know, white magic is good and black magic is evil, because it just doesn't make any sense. Although in doing this research, I do now understand where it came from. But I think that we have, you know, put some stronger unnecessary meanings and translations to it. And I really think we need to examine it, because it does make it look like anything that's black is bad and anything that's white is good, and that's not a good thing, because it has nothing to do with magic itself. Magic is magic. I mean, if you want to say you're a gray witch, you know, so you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. It's up to you. It's your opinion. No judgment here. You can be whoever you are. you know, that's on you. But all we're asking is don't just say that black magic is evil magic, because it is not. And that was not even the intention when that phrase was made. It came up, as we said, because there were dark times and people were calling on what they considered dark energies because it was outside of Christianity and doing things that they needed to get done, or outside of Judaism, whichever, you know, Old Testament, New Testament, whichever one you're into or we're into. So at least now you know that magic has no color, and now you know where the origins of that came from. And so we would like for you, especially that if someone says, oh, you know, someone's doing black magic against me, go ahead and take a minute to explain to the people that said that where that phrase came from, because we want to try to educate everybody. Just doing this show tonight, just sitting here with you guys tonight, I received a whole education on the origin of black magic and white magic. You know, typically this is something I would have researched before the show, but I've been incredibly busy and I just haven't had the time. So I actually, you know, got a chance to take a look. And so please perpetuate this education to other people so that they will stop looking at it that way, because that's not the way it was intended to be looked at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to add something else before we go to our
Yeah. Following up with interesting is even the women, when they went and they picked herbs in the garden to help heal someone, they considered that dark magic or the dark arts, because their question was, how do you know and helps heal that particular ailment? How do you know? So it must be the dark arts. So that came, and it was just like, now the dark arts, yes, then okay, if that's the case. Because I remember that what was somebody said to me, and I said, I'm aware. Oh, you are? Then they said, so I said, no, I don't practice black arts, but I do all of it, everything, all of it. And they just looked at me and they kind of looked a bit, you know, scared and everything. And I'm like, no, I do. Honestly, I said, anything that's the herbs and everything, that's the dark arts, and I practice all of it. So yes, you know, you just kind of educate yourself so you don't sound like you're just a name or whatever it is, because what they're saying, then you've been practicing the dark arts. You have to really think about what you're doing a certain way, because that's how it comes off. And if you're looking at everything that's in modern times, everyone, we're all looking at things too much as if everything is a race issue. And we should not, especially as witches. I mean, we have said that many a times, but we've seen things where we're like, really, we're not all a certain way like we assumed. You know, there is a lot of racism among witches. So if there is, then when you say certain things, it comes off certain ways, you know. And just, you know, think and educate yourself for a bit, just in general.
It's really important to really educate yourself so that you know what you're talking about when you say a phrase. You know, I didn't really think about it. You know, it's really because I'll tell you something, and you know, and I'm just going to put it out there, is that I've barely been able to go on Facebook because the negative energy on there is so bad. I don't know if the election brought it out or what the heck is going on, but I can't stand it anymore. I can't stand all of this political infighting. I can't stand seeing white pagans pitted against black pagans and vice versa, and arguing going on. And I'm like, people, if anyone is supposed to set a spiritual example, it is us. Please stop fighting. You know, witches have a hard enough time being taken seriously. Can we please not fight with each other? Can we please stick together? I mean, we've all got the same gods and goddesses. We're doing all the same thing. please don't allow yourself to go back into the muggle mind, as I'm going to call it. Let the muggles sit there and argue it out over who should do what and blah, blah, blah. But we as spiritualists, our job is to try to keep the peace, keep clarity. So it's really important not to allow yourself to get dragged into all of this, because it's basically a whole thing from the media that actually pits the colors, the races against each other, because that's what gives them money. That's what gives them ratings. So whenever you do that, all you're really doing is helping some entity or some firm get rich, while you're just expending all this energy on things that you could be using that energy to manifest things for yourself, instead of getting out there and fighting with someone who has no intentions of changing their opinion just because you don't agree with them. So that's a whole waste of your time and energy. It does nothing to help you and does nothing but continue to perpetuate hatred and bad feelings towards each other. So let the muggles battle it out and stick to your own manifestations and what you're trying to do, which is bring more spirituality into the world, into your own life, and don't allow yourself to be distracted by what the media is perpetuating, because that's what they want. They want to keep us all fighting with each other to keep our intentions diverted about what's really going on in the world. Now, I say all that to say, I don't say that to say that that there aren't serious issues going on in the world right now. Yes, there are. We keep seeing all of these horrible shootings going on, and which I think is just terrible. And I do think that the police officers who are doing this, they need to be held accountable. But again, by constantly focusing on the police officers, we're losing sight of the big picture. The big picture is, what are the police doing as an institution to stop this? What are they doing? When I was a mortgage underwriting manager and one of my staff made a mistake, my boss didn't go to that staff member. He came to me and said, your staff member did this. Translation: you weren't watching what your staff member was doing. You didn't institute enough protocols to make sure that they knew what they were going on, or that they were up to date on their regulations. I got blamed because of my staff member, what my staff member did, and rightfully so. I should have a better hold on what was going on. Well, the same way, if we keep staring at and focusing on these individual police officers as opposed to what are police departments doing to fix this issue. It's not that long ago, I don't know how old everybody here is, but a while ago, there was a rash of postal workers who just lost it and were shooting people and doing all kinds of things, and even established the phrase going postal. And so everyone turned an eye to the post office. They didn't turn so much to the postal workers that had, shot people or shot themselves, whatever they were doing. They started looking at the post office and asking postal workers, how come you guys are so stressed out? What's going on over here? And the postal workers were saying, oh my God, they put so much pressure on us. We've got to get the mail out regardless if it's snowing. We're not even allowed to whistle or talk. We have to be like, automatons. We can't do anything. And finally, the pressure just got to us. So by putting that focus on the postal office as an institution, all of a sudden, there was no more post office people going crazy. Why? Because the public demanded, fix it, do something. These people should not be so stressed out that they're shooting people, or they're losing their minds, or they're killing each other. They forced change by going through the institution. And now that's not a problem anymore. But unfortunately, with all of these shootings going on, we do have to focus on the police, which we should. Those police officers need to be held accountable. But the bigger focus needs to be everyone, black, white, Chinese, purple, green, I don't care what your color is, needs to be focusing on the police as an institution and saying, what are you doing to make sure that your police officers are mentally and emotionally capable of going out there with a gun in their pocket and not killing them? Are you making them go to some sort of therapy or counseling, mandatory once a week? or having an emotional profile done, mandatory once a month. When you consider what police officers see every day, child molesters, rapists, murderers, all kinds of trauma, you're not going to tell me some of them aren't suffering from PTSD. Now, that does not excuse their behavior because they're still sane and they still should have been the ones to go to their managers or their sergeants and said, you know what, I'm stressed out to the point where I'm ready to shoot somebody's ass. So I need to take a leave of absence, or I need to do something because I am approaching critical mass. That was their responsibility. They knew that they were about to snap and they should have said something instead of, just going out there and doing what they're going to do. So I do not take responsibility away from them. However, I put greater responsibility on the police as an institution. And I guarantee you that if the news media started showing how unarmed people of every color are being shot probably every day, and yes, I have read that Black people are 2.5 times more likely to be shot, but still there are other races being shot too. And if we showed everybody, look, you know what, white people are getting shot, Chinese people, Asian, everybody is, then everyone's focus is then going to turn to the police and say, what are you people doing about this? Just like with the post office, it's no different. But with this, we put all of the focus and blame on the officer instead of looking at the police department as the institution. Say, excuse me, why didn't you make sure that this man was emotionally sane enough to be walking around with a gun out there? This is your fault. What are you doing to fix it? What is the institution doing? And until we do that, the media will continue to pit us against each other, because that's what gets ratings. That's what gets us riled up. It makes us watch the news, which makes us watch commercials, which makes them make more money. Instead of them saying, you know what, this is a system-wide problem that is affecting everybody, and we all need to turn our attention to the police departments and say, what are you people doing to ensure that your officers are sane enough and competent, despite all the crap that they see, to be walking around out there with a gun? I blame the institutions more than...
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You are so right about a lot of that. And honestly, the media is not any worse because they kind of gear things a certain way. That's what they do.
It's them that's doing it.
Yeah, and the police, you're right, because I look at the police officers anymore. I see a gang members of the biggest gang in the country, and they all have one color, and they come at and yeah, you're absolutely right when you said if they show it as the fact that people of all races, then they may go and say, okay, what are you doing, like with the police, like with the post office, and try to get the root of the problem.
Right.
That are young and coming in already, but it's some strange mentality about a race of people and all the different things. They should not be out there. They should not be given a gun. They should not be police officers in the first place. A lot of them. But they that problem, period, and taking care of it, they are coming at it as a race issue. So a lot of people are saying, well, it has nothing to do with us. So
exactly,
the police must be just that. It has nothing to do with us because our people are not being killed off. Exactly. So instead of getting to the root of the problem, they just keep it as a race war. Exactly. And yes, there is a race war in a sense, because like you said, the Black person is likely highly is to focus in on the problem and take care of it. And they're not going to do that if they continue doing it the way that they're doing it, because things need to stop. Facebook does not help. The internet does not help, because they all come at us with all of this information. The media, oh my goodness, they are so great at their job. Bring everything to you one-sided. Don't tell you the full story of something, and you've got one aspect of it, and you're believing it because said it. So they all take it and they run different. People that were more open-minded around the world now have this whole stigma. Yeah, I got to come here and shoot the Blacks. I've heard them say that. And I'm like, but Germans didn't, or Germans or whoever it is that wrote this book didn't say that.
Got a star?
Is
Got a star? Can you hear me? Got a star? I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Oh, there you are. We
Okay.
lost you there for a couple of
Okay. All
minutes.
right. Good. I thought, oh no, not again.
No, you're back
Yes.
though, so that's good. But no, you
Yeah.
know what?
So
You're
basically,
right. You're absolutely
they're all doing this thing of like sleight of hand, like illusionist, sleight of hand. I'll pass you this way, and you'll see what I want you to see. And
right.
big idiots that a lot of people are. I hate to say that, but if you don't look at yourself for what it is, if you are allowing this illusionist to say sleight of hand, and I'll let you see what I need you to see, and not look at the big picture and educate yourself, then that makes an idiot of you and me. We all are being followed and being led like sheep. And
Like,
unless we learn to use the internet, they're using the internet and Facebook and the media to their disposal to help you, guide you, and lead you into different things. Go and educate yourself on it instead. Google things, educate yourself on it so you would know yourself and not be following like sheep. you know
that's
be
exactly
smart
right.
about things. If we are so wise and so smart, educate yourself. Don't assume. Don't take one person's word. Don't take my word. Don't take Goddess Rhonda's word. Educate yourself so you can see it yourself. We're not telling you something that isn't the truth. If you need to go and prove this yourself, go look it up yourself. Educate yourself on it so you can say, you know what, this is really what's going on.
Exactly.
See everything.
Don't
Don't just read one
let
person's line of
yourself
story. Read
be
all the
distracted.
aspects of it.
Don't let yourself be distracted. And also look at, the media is going to show you the little picture. So I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there's very few Black people here. So when you hear about somebody getting shot, it's typically someone who is Mexican or Latino in some way. So, but you'll never see that on CNN or anything like that. You're not going to see that because that's not going to give such big ratings. You have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is, what are the police doing to ensure the sanity and mental competence of those police officers? When you consider what a police officer sees day in and day out, they have to be affected. I know there's no way I could be a police officer. I already know it because I'd be shooting people right and left. Child molester, bang. Rapist, bang. If I walked in and saw some guy beating up his wife, I'm shooting him. I already know that. So I'm not going to apply to be a police officer because I know I am not competent enough to go and see that kind of thing and not shoot somebody. I know myself well enough. And so it's up to the police departments, I feel, that they should be doing mandatory psych evals, a minimum of once a month just for the evaluation, but mandatory that the police officers must see a therapist at least once a week, minimum once a week, to work all this stuff out. If they're like, well, how are we going to pay for that? Well, that's what we pay taxes for. Figure it out. But until we all take a look and focus on the institution of the police departments, nothing is going to change. And if we continue to allow the media to hurt us to their opinions and their perspectives, like we're a bunch of sheep and they're a bunch of the herders telling us what we need to think about, then none of us will ever be free because we're always going to be controlled by people who really couldn't give a rat's ass about what all they really want you to do is watch their show so that they have higher ratings, so that they'll get more sponsorships, so that you'll watch commercials and buy things and they get richer. That is what they are trying to do. So, I didn't mean to actually go off on that. In fact, I don't even know how I got on that topic. We were supposed to be talking about Donald Trump and whether or not he's got witches working for him, but at least we said what we had to say. But we're asking you, please do not allow yourselves to be distracted. Look at the bigger picture. of what is going on and then demand change from the institution that needs those demands, that can meet those demands, that can do something to fix it. If they fixed it that quick with the postal workers, because the postal worker issue, and I'm sure some of you remember, you're old enough to remember hearing the phrase going postal because of the pressures put on those people, but because it wasn't relegated to one race, everyone looked at the post office and said, fix it. Whereas the media is just focusing on the race, and we're looking at the police officers and trying to put them in jail, and rightfully so, as I said before. But what are we doing to ensure that this doesn't happen again? And that's up to the institution. So we're going to actually go back, because I really do want to talk about whether or not Donald Trump has witches helping him with his election. Now, I know how that sounds. Some of you must be saying, all right, Goddess Rondi, you just like, we know you're a conspiracy theorist, but WTF, what are you talking about? So the reason that I say that is for somehow this man who has no political experience, who is probably the rudest politician ever, who just says whatever he wants, insults everybody, has made himself out to be, I don't know if I want to call him a white supremacist or just an elitist because he's rich and thinks that people who are not rich are below him. I think I'll just call him an elitist because he doesn't put race into it. He's just thinks other people are just lower than him if they don't make any money. You know, let's not forget, he didn't have to pull himself up by his bootstraps, as he's very proud to say. His father lent him $1 million, gave him a small loan. His words are, my father gave me a small loan of $1 million to start my real estate company. Anyone who thinks that $1 million is a small loan, it gives you some real insight into what their views are about money. And so how this person who, you know, most politicians, they had to come up through the ranks. You know, maybe they started off as volunteers or they got a little lobbyist job and they had to put in years of sweat and doing conventions and talking and campaigning to get to where they are. And here comes this guy who was a trust fund baby, whose father is paid his way and has no clue about the economics of the poorer people. How the hell did he get this far? How did he even get a nomination? You know, I don't get into politics much. I grew up in a very political household, so I hate politics because I know the fighting and hatred and backbiting it causes, and that's just not who I am. I like peace, and I like people to be harmonious and get along with each other. However, with that said, I do vote because I do think it's important that we put our 2 cents in the form of a vote. So all I can do, because I don't follow politics, and excuse me again for wiping my nose, my allergies are a little crazy today. Being that I don't follow politics, all I can do is base my choice on what their experience is. You know, if I was running the Ford Motor Company and I had a want ad out there for a new chief financial officer, I would expect the candidates to come in with a resume reflecting all of the work that they have done as a CFO in other companies, what their accomplishments were, how they were able maybe to turn that company around. I'm going to look at all of their credentials and see if they have what it takes for the job. Now, the person who comes to me with the best credentials, they've been doing this for 20 years, they've done it successfully, all the companies that they worked for have always had really good financial systems put in place, they've all profited. I'm going to hire this guy as opposed to the guy who comes in and says, well, you know, I've never done really anything with finances or anything, but I could if I tried. Do you really think I'm going to give that guy the job? No, I'm not. So how in the world did some guy who has no political experience, who doesn't even understand what it's like to need something because everything has been handed to him, How in the world could he possibly have been nominated to be the president of the United States with no experience, nothing but rudeness and harsh words? Everybody pretty much hates him except for his followers, who are also a bunch of, I don't even want to know. I'll just keep that part to myself. I'll keep that opinion to myself. How in the world did this crazy man, and this man is literally crazy. In fact, I saw, I think it was in the New York Times, that there are psychiatrists that are diagnosing him as a classic narcissist, and how dangerous it would be to put someone like that in charge of the White House. How in the world did this crazy man get to where he is if he didn't have some help? I need someone to please explain it to me. And you might say, well, he's rich, he has all this money. Well, so are the other candidates. You can't run for president if you don't have any money. You might as well, someone like me, I can put in and say, yes, I would like to run for president, but no one's going to vote for me, because where am I going to get the money to campaign and get everything done? Nobody knows me. I have no political experience. Who's going to contribute to my campaign to be the president of the United States? How in the world, if he does not have somebody helping him, magically, how did he get this nomination? So I'm eager to hear anyone's opinions or conspiracies or ideas on how the hell Donald Trump managed to get a nomination for the presidency with not one political credential. Not one. Not one. What's he going to say? Well, I did well in real estate, and I had a show on TV called The Apprentice. That was very popular. Okay, how is that going to help you to deal with foreign policy and to figure out where we need to be taxed or not taxed, or bringing us out of our debt? Because I think we owe China, just like tons and tons of money. We are truly a nation in debt to other people. And so what are you going to do to fix that? Because I don't want to wake up tomorrow and see the Chinese flag flying because they call in their debts and we can't pay them. So how in the world did this man, who is rude, obnoxious, and has not one political credential that would make him worthy of this office, how in the world did he get as far as he is? I would like for someone to explain that to me. Anybody. I'm willing to listen to any theories that anyone has. I'll start with you guys,
honestly speaking, I have no theories on it other than, you didn't add, you were describing him. He's got foot and mouth disease, big time. And he hands it over and he holds it with relish, like, I've got foot and mouth disease and I will stick that foot in my mouth and I will keep sticking it there and it's okay. And people love me sticking my foot in my mouth, and that's just Donald Trump. But you see, people never realize that he went what you call rich broke for a while there. He went broke. Of course, not broke like us broke, but broke, rich man broke. And he leveraged the fact that he came from a rich family and went back to the bank and borrowed some money and leveraged against it. And he took a chance on some real estate in New York, which, when you think about it, there's not much chance you can take in Manhattan. Anywhere you buy in Manhattan pretty much is not a chance. It's like a lottery ticket all the time. You're always winning in Manhattan with any part of the big real estate. And that's what he did. So it doesn't take it. All it takes is money in Manhattan to be able to be a real estate mogul. And that's what he had. Right. So, he didn't exactly do anything that any one of us in his same position would not have been able to accomplish and do. Right? Because he started out with money. If he came from absolutely nothing, like, say, what's his name? Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Man, Poor Man, okay, who came from nothing and living in the streets in the car with his wife, that's different. That's broke man's broke. He came from that to billions, that's different. He cannot say in any ways sorry, but he didn't, but he loves to say he did. And that's okay. He's a big mouth of again, foot and mouth disease. And that's okay. So he can do that. But I keep telling people, I honestly, some of my political aspirations about that and the things I say about it, I'm probably gonna should keep quiet about, because I do have to say I don't know necessarily if it was witches that he used or worked with. I think it may be there's magical types of different paths, you know. So I don't necessarily think it was necessarily witches. I don't know. Who's to know? I've heard people say that same comments back and forth over time, because they're just wondering, how is it possible, you know, because he you know, I thought it was a joke when I heard him first running. It did not occur to me that this man was going to actually get nominated by the Republican Party. But honestly speaking, when they did nominate him and started banding behind him, I wasn't shocked. A lot of people were shocked, but I was like, why are you shocked? That's exactly what they are. The differences are he's their mouthpiece. You know, politically speaking, he's saying what they've always wanted to say, but they just haven't said.
Right.
So, you know, them backing him was in a way shocking. Yeah, it shocked me, but no big surprise there. Um, but I don't know if necessarily if it's a witch thing per se. If there was, I don't think it was a witch. Um, I think money does speak a lot, though. And if you are coming from money with a lot of money backing you, you can do just about anything. Look at Bloomberg. He did 3 terms in New York, which is against the law. Not begged, bullied and butchered his way through to a 3rd term in New York City
Right.
that he should not have had. And again, he went in a millionaire, came out a billionaire, and he said he only got paid $1 a year. Hmm. There's just so much financial shenanigans that go on with all these people that, you know, you always gotta wonder, what are they compensating for? I'm sorry, I should not have said that, but you gotta really
Yes,
wonder
you
what they're
should.
compensating for.
Yes, you should.
You know what I mean?
You should
What
have
are they
said that.
compensating for? Like, you know, I call Bloomberg a Napoleonic, that he has a Napoleonic complex. You know, like, what are they compensating for that they need beyond everybody's wildest dreams of, you know, and have everything and control everything, you know? You got to wonder, what are they compensating for? I mean, it's just a thought.
Well, I also want to, I remember when Trump went broke. Trump didn't really go broke. Trump went broke when he was getting divorced from Ivana. When all of a sudden, when she would have had claim to half of his millions, all of a sudden he didn't have any to give her. And then there were all of these write-ups in the newspaper. Oh, he was a fraud. He doesn't have any money. He lost all his money. He just made it look like he's a millionaire. And then once his
Yeah, no,
divorce
that's
from
not the proof.
Ivana was final, all of a sudden he was rich again. Suddenly he was right
Yeah,
back in the black. So he
but
manipulated.
she knew though.
Yeah, well,
She
she
knew.
knew,
She
but you
ended
know
up
what?
getting all of
It's
it. That she
very difficult in these types of marriages where the man has all the money for the woman to prove anything. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was having an affair. So he probably already started to divert his funds or putting in different people's names and doing things. And it was time for a divorce. It was like, oh, gee, now I don't have billions of dollars to share with you anymore. But then once the divorce was final, all of a sudden it's a miracle. He's rich again. So I believe that he manipulated that whole situation with that so that he didn't have to give his wife as much money as she was entitled to. I really do, because I remember that distinctly. That was going on during his divorce. And then as soon as the divorce was over, all of a sudden he was rich again. It was an amazing thing. It was a miracle.
No, that was the second time. That was the second time that he went broke. That was the second time he went broke. But his, I mean, knew that was a lie. But this broke was when some building that he invested in, he overspent and extenuated himself and lost a lot of the money that he had originally starting out. But the banks gave him, extended his credit and gave him a loan beyond, because they said that he leveraged the fact that he came from money. against it, which they would never have done for a regular person.
I was going to
In
say
other
that
words,
that's not going broke then. I'm not broke if I can
no,
go to the
that's what I'm
grocery.
saying. He wasn't broke in the regular broke. He
Yeah,
was
he
broke
wasn't
as in
broke.
Donald Trump broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the man's,
But
you know, he's not broke.
yeah, yeah. He was rich man broke. Oh my goodness. But you know what I mean. That's what they do, They manipulate, they sleight of hand and the whole bit, and they make one thing look different over here. It's just what they do. But I don't know. I honestly, you probably have a lot of theories behind it, but I honestly don't know for sure, about that with the witch part. So I don't know. What theory did you have?
Well, it just, I do believe that he has people helping him. I do. It's not a new thing for politicians or people who are of power to be rumored to be using magic. You've got the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs and all
Yeah.
these people that, they're using. Even Hitler used or is reported to have used magic to promote himself. I mean, look at him. He quite frankly, I can see similarities between him and Trump. And so I do think that, just because these people are rich and nothing, they're using people. And one of the things that made me think this also was, who did we have on the show? We had someone, I think it was Lexa Rosen. I'm fairly certain it was her. And she said Madonna, before she became as big and famous as she was, came to her to make a candle so that she would win a contest or something. And I started thinking, like, wow, these people do use magic to get themselves ahead. Now, we did have a comment in our chat room from Jay Key. Well, first we have Soul Love, who says they never talk about the nation's debt anymore. That's right, Soul Love, because they want to distract you from finding out that we are so severely in debt, that it would shake us to our very bones if we realized the situation we were in. And that also narcissists seem to believe in themselves with the law of attraction. That is exactly the point that I was making in the beginning of the show when I said people who get back what they put out there are the ones that are invested in themselves, that are doing things for themselves. And a narcissist, because everything is about them, they do use that law of attraction. Because everything is about them.
They do.
Everything is about them being great, having money, having everything. It's all about them. And then putting that constant energy into it being all about them, for them to gather, makes them very powerful magicians. Because their focus isn't distracted by helping the poor or helping the weak or helping the sick. Their focus is total domination and control of everything they can get their hands on. So yes, the law of attraction is working. And thank you for pointing that out, because when you say that, it makes me realize he is such a narcissist that he probably doesn't need witches. He's just been so about himself so much that he's literally started the law of attraction flowing to him to have all those things. And then we also have a remark from Jay Key, who says, Brooklyn witches are doing their part to defeat Donald Trump by casting hexes on him. So naturally, I had to immediately go and paste that into the internet, because I need to see what this is all about, because I had not heard this. So thank you so much for sharing that. I had not heard that Brooklyn witches are doing their part to defeat Donald Trump.
I did not know that.
I just think that's really funny. I'm waiting for the page to load. It's probably a little slower. Oh wait, let's see. Here we go. So as if here, I'll take a picture of this and put it in the chat room so that everyone can look it up at their leisure. Here, I'm going to put that link right there so that you guys can look it up at your leisure, and then we'll go back and take a look at it. All right, as if the presidential race hasn't been interesting enough, witches have now entered the fold. Yemi Slady, I don't know if I'm saying this person's name correctly, gathered her fellow Brujas, asked them to perform a series of curses on Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, and recorded footage of the rituals. The end result is an energetic video titled Brujas Hex Trump. Yenny, and I'm sorry, I think it's funny, forgive me, but I really have very little sympathy for Donald Trump. Yenny, a writer and activist from Brooklyn, was inspired to make the video after chatting with her Santeria practicing mother. Yenny asked if there was anything she could do spell-wise to thwart Trump's electoral efforts. We're both Cuban immigrants, and his misguided attack on Mexican immigrants hit close to home, so she was happy to help. Her mom gave instructions on a traditional name-in-the-freezer hacks, and the video shows Yenny invoking the Ice Queen to freeze Trump's idiotic cabeza, meaning his head, cabeza. As the saying goes, there's always strength in numbers, so Yenny's friends contributed an array of spells for old Trump. The magical menu included a hex to silence him, another to protect people of color from his evil, and one that would make him mourn the loss of his infamous comb-over. That's right, a hair loss curse. Though Yenny says not everyone who worked on the video believes in the supernatural, they all wholeheartedly believe that Trump and the rest of the GOP are garbage. Even if the hexes don't work, the video shows Mexicans that they've got plenty of good people on their side, Yenny explained. I asked Yenny if there was a presidential candidate she'd cast a good luck spell for, and she affirmed those blessings would be given to Bernie Sanders. I'm not one of his crazed feel the burn supporters, but I think he's the only candidate who isn't entirely disingenuous, especially since he released his racial justice platform. Susie X, a writer and lead singer of Shady Hawkins, one of the bands who contributed music to the video, describes witchcraft as being more than love spells, tarot cards, and natal charts. The central essences of the witch is and has always been political resistance. Witches were born out of their natural resistance to patriarchy, to the level of greed and entitlement that produces scum lords like Donald Trump. We need to repolarize the witch the way the feminists did in the 70s. Let's take advantage of their existing fear of women, of immigrants, of black and of brown folks, and let's have some fun with it. I think that's hilarious. And there is also the video. If you click on this link, the video is there, which I'm going to watch later on after I have my dinner. I'm going to settle in and watch that with a glass. I think I'll have to pour myself a glass of wine first, and then I'll settle in and take a look at that. But I think that's pretty hilarious. And like I said, I have no sympathy for Donald Trump. I think that he is an embarrassment to our country. And I'll be very glad when this election is over, he does not win, and then I don't have to hear from him ever again, hopefully, ever in life, because he's really just beyond the pale. So I do think, but I am really glad, J. Key, that you did make that mention about the law of attraction and using the law of attraction because he's constantly about himself. Oh, excuse me, not Jake, excuse me, Soul Love, about the narcissists who believe in themselves and create that law of attraction. And I do believe that if you are 1,000,000% focused on focusing your energy on your wealth, on your good health, on all the good things in your life, and you're not being distracted by trying to help out the poor man or the sick man or the weak man or people, that really need it. If you are 100% focused on what you want, then the law of attraction is invoked and you'll get it. You will. So looking at that, Soul Love, maybe he doesn't need witches because he's just using his own his own
law of attraction
energies as a magnetic field to bring him what he wants. Although I still wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some witches or somebody he's paying to burn a candle for him or something.
Yes.
It's just amazing. I remember when he first started, I said, you know what? I kept waiting for him to say, you know what? This has been a social experiment. I'm just kidding about what I said. I just wanted to see how you people would react or how many people would follow me. This was just a social experiment. But I'm guessing at this late date, that's not going to happen. And so by now, I guess it's not a social experiment. And he really is serious about what he has to say. So I don't know. I still think that there's somebody helping him, but looking at what Soul Love had to say, I will also agree that the law of attraction can be helping him because, when you are that focused on yourself and you have that much narcissistic energy to do it, that is very powerful magic. Very powerful magic. Just like hatred is very powerful magic. If you just focus hate on somebody, things will go awry in their life. You don't ever have to actually hex them. You can just focus your hatred, which is a form of hex. So I'm not going to leave here saying for sure whether or not Donald Trump is using witches or witchcraft. Although, like I said, I do see a lot of similarities between him and Hitler. A lot. And I do know from the research and from what other people have said about Hitler that he used magic to get to where
he used magic. He did.
He was. He did. And
he did use magic.
The crazy, horrible things that he said and did. How could people follow along with that? And so I still can't understand how Trump has any followers when all he spews is hatred. Is hatred and elitism. I just don't get it. So I will still stand by. I think he's got someone working for him, but I am also willing to believe that the law of attraction is working for him as well, because he is 100% focused on himself. That is his main thing. And so he literally
got that hands down.
Out there. He does. He does. He's got that. He is all about him. And he'll say whatever he wants and does whatever he wants. And people are just following him. And I just don't get it. And I'm not talking about people who I know to be, of that mind. I mean, people that I have known to be very sweet and helpful and supportive have just like turned to him and saying, oh, he's great, he's wonderful, what are you talking about? And I'm like, who are you? Excuse me, you're not the person that's out there, helping people and rescuing animals and doing all these things. What is that? So I still think that there is something going on that he is using to influence people. I do think that it's not working as well as it used to, because from the comments that I'm seeing, and even he's saying now from what I said, I think they're going to rig the election so that I don't win. He already knows. But if he's saying that, he's already starting to sour grapes. Well, the reason that happened is because they rigged the election. He's already putting it out there that if I don't win, it's because they rigged the election, not because people don't like me. And
right.
If he's saying
that, the thing about it, you see, one of the things I tell people is, yes, he's a narcissist, and yes, he is full of himself, and he's got foot and mouth disease. But he is saying some of the things that a lot of white Americans have been saying to themselves or keeping to themselves, and he's physically saying it. So they're like, that's the reason why they're standing behind him. They're like, oh my gosh, he's saying what I've been thinking, and I have not been saying it because I'm being politically correct. You understand what I'm saying? So if you look at this man and he's saying things that you wanted to say all along publicly, but you didn't, you got a lot of following there on people. Because if, like, I remember we spoke to you about, in general, just people not speaking English in this English-speaking country. I have heard so many people make comments out there about why that person is not speaking English, why they're here with a language living in this country, and America has to basically, work around their language when this is an English-speaking country. If you have a lot of people upset with things like that, and if it upsets a lot of people in general, people who would never think of going with Donald Trump, when he says certain things, then they're going to follow it. It's a sad case of, whatever it is that comes out of his mouth, and they start believing it and following it, and it's such a shame, but it's what's going on. And it's kind of sad to see that people can't solve their problems differently, and learn to accept everything the way it is. People are just not willing to settle anymore.
Well, here's the thing with that, though. And yet again, we are not looking at the big picture as we should. So let's examine that for a minute, you know, with this whole racism thing that he is perpetuating. He's saying, you know, Mexican people are coming over here and they're stealing our jobs, and or all our jobs are going overseas and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now, there are people, yes, that have gotten priced out of jobs or lost their jobs because the corporations are sending the companies are setting up the companies overseas where it's cheaper and they can have cheaper labor. Okay, that's not the Mexican people's fault. That's the corporations that are saying, screw you, America. We need to make more money, so we're going to go ahead and put our jobs over there, and we're going to give these people the money to do it. And so people are then like, well, you know, then the Mexicans come over here, and then they're taking our jobs because they'll work cheaper than us and blah, blah, blah. And I want to say to all of you out there, snap out of it. Mexican people aren't taking your jobs. Foreigners are not taking your jobs. Guess what's taking your jobs, people? Robots. When's the last time you called a company and got a human being on the phone? You don't, right? What do you get? If you're calling for such and such, press 1. If you're calling for something else, press 2. If you're calling for something else,
It's so annoying.
wait. You have to go through 5 different robots to get to the person that you're trying to get to. Every robot that you have talked to used to be a person's job. That job is gone now because of automation. I was going, you know, my phone, I have a little, my iPhone is a 4, and I wanted to get a newer phone, and I'm finally up for a new phone. And so I went online to look at phones to upgrade to. I wanted to get one of the, I want to get the SE because I like small phones. I don't like these big phablets or whatever it is they call them. I like a regular small phone. And so I was looking at it, and it said, if you order it online, we will remove the $40 activation and upgrade fee. So I didn't want to order it online because I wanted to talk about the phone. I wanted to know, you know, which one is the best one for me and compare, because I'm not tech savvy. I have to talk to somebody about it. So I got someone on the phone finally, and I was like, you know, what's the difference? Blah, blah, these phones, blah, 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 blah. And so I settled on the one that I ordered. And I said, now it says online that if I order this phone, I will save, you know, you'll waive the $40 activation upgrade fee. And she goes, well, that's only if you order it online. And I said, well, why should it only be online? So basically what you're doing is you're trying to get people not to deal with human beings. You want them to deal with automation, and you're willing to pay them technically $40 to get them away from talking to humans, to take your freaking job away, so that now it'll just be completely automated. I want the $40 off, even though I'm talking to a person. I want that taken care of. Talk to your manager, talk to whoever you have to talk to, because that's a load of shit. And so
Yep.
I got my $40 taken off. They're like, okay, they talked to the manager waived it. But I am here to tell you that people from other countries are not taking your job. You know, I got booted out of the mortgage business because it used to be human underwriters who would sit there and review each file and decide whether or not the person applying had the credit and the means in order to pay for this home. They switched over in the early 2000s to automated underwriting, where they decided to let a machine make a decision. Well, that not only caused the collapse of the mortgage industry because the machine was just making decisions without a human looking at it and using a human rationale, but more importantly, many underwriters, because of that, were displaced. They got knocked down to being a processor because now the companies didn't need to pay them all those big salaries anymore, because now the machine was doing it for them. The computer was doing it faster and quicker, and there went a whole slew, hundreds, thousands of people lost their jobs in the mortgage industry. Thank you very much to automated underwriting systems. And even when after the mortgage industry collapsed, and I said, well, I've got to do something. I can't get back in. I started off doing freelance writing, doing content writing for websites, because if you want your website to go up in the search engines, you have to have a lot of content in order for the search engines to recognize it as being important enough to raise it up to maybe get on the first page of Google or whatever search engine that you're using. And so let's just say you were a coffee manufacturer. You manufactured and sold coffee, and you set up your website. Well, you would need hundreds of articles about coffee on your website. So they would hire me to write 50 articles about the wonderful benefits of coffee or the taste of coffee or whatever. Just sit there all day writing articles about how wonderful coffee is. Well, that used to pay us, $20 to $50 an article, depending on who the company was. Well, then they invented a software called spinning, where you could take one article and you would feed it into this software, into the computer, and it would spit out 50 articles or 100 articles based on the one that you put in. That means all of us freelance content writers, guess what? Just like that, we were obsolete. We were no longer needed because we were replaced by a computer. So take the focus on what the media is saying and take a very good look around you. When I was growing up, and you saw on television, you saw all these different trade schools. You could go and be a beautician, or you could learn mechanics, or you could learn electronics. You could do all these things. And these are, when you learn a trade like this, that enables you that if you can't get a job, you can become self-employed. Because if you can fix cars, or you can be an electrician or be a plumber, electricians and plumbers, they make good money, and we're always going to need them. You don't see those anymore, though, do you? You don't see any trade schools being perpetuated. You turn on, you'll see all these millions of colleges. Go join this college or get on this website for the college finder, because they want you to go to school, spend $100,000, which your parents will also be on the hook for, because now they do that as well. And then you're going to graduate with a degree that you can't get a job with. But in the meantime, everyone is going automated. So I would like for someone to tell me, where are the schools that are teaching these people how to work on these robots, how to work on these automation? Who are those jobs being saved for? Because those are the jobs that are going to be taking over the world. It's not going to be the Mexicans. It's not going to be foreigners from overseas. It's not going to be people in India. It is automation, artificial intelligence, robots. We are plunging right into the matrix type of society, but nobody's looking at that. Where are all the schools that are teaching these people how to fix robots? And what happened to the trade schools that taught you to be a mechanic, that taught you to be an electrician, that taught you to be a plumber? Jobs that would allow you to be self-employed and that you could go anywhere and do something with. That's being gone. Why? Because we are being herded as sheeple to focus on higher education. College is not for everybody. And guess what? I know lots of people with college degrees that are flipping burgers at McDonald's because they can't get a job in their field, or living with their parents because they can't afford to live anywhere. Meanwhile, the trade jobs that were like, plumbers, electricians, they might make with overtime $50 an hour if they're self-employed, even more. Where are those jobs? Where are those tech schools? And someone's out there doing that work. Who are those jobs being saved for? Why are we not seeing ads for them anymore? Why are we not seeing ads for schools that teach automation and how to fix robots and robotics in general? I haven't seen any ads, have you? But how many people are using robotics? Car companies use robotics. Everyone's using them now. And slowly but surely, I shouldn't even say slowly but surely because it's becoming more rapid, we are losing our jobs to automation. So wake up, people. You don't have to worry about Juan from Mexico stealing your job or a bee from India outbidding you. You need to worry about the robots who can work 24/7 and don't require a salary that will be taking your jobs. Pay attention. And I didn't mean to get on that rant either, but I did. So it's too late to take it all back. Sorry about that. But what do you think about that, Not a Star?
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We didn't get to the rest of our topics. I guess we'll pick it up another time.
That's okay. We'll pick it up another time. But I just feel like I'm glad that we had our little show with our tiaras and our ticas and our tea and, voiced out some things. And I'm really, really grateful for everyone in the chat room with all of your comments and all of your participation, and because you actually used this chat room, because our other one is going away. We're not even going to bring it up anymore. We're just going to be using this one. So with all that said, I want to thank everyone. So I'm looking at the time and didn't realize I'd been just going off like that for so long. I apologize for my rant. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and close out our circle. Hail and farewell, our lords and ladies of the elements and the directions. We thank you so much for your kind service and return your energy back to source with our gratitude and blessings. Blessed be. And thank you once again for joining us for another edition of the Priestess View. We always say how much we appreciate you, and we cannot emphasize that enough, because without you, where would we be? So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes,
and with that said,
very much.
Marry me.
The circle is open, but never broken. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have an awesome, awesome week, and have a blessed full moon.
Oh, yes, and full moon. I forgot. Don't forget, have a wonderful, wonderful full moon this week. I think it's Wednesday night, right?
It's actually Thursday.
All right. Blessed full moon, everyone.
Blessed full moon, everyone. Have a great one. Good night.
Night. Bye-bye.